Tena kujumuika na nyinyi tena kwa mara nyingine. It's a Monday and there could be no better way to start your Mondays than to study on the Tackle Common Sense Edition. Tuko na kama kawaida tuko na Eric Mwangi, CEO Maridadi Motors, na tuko na Captain Collins Wanderi, our senior, tuambie ni nini inaendeleanga wapi, na Levi Kones mwenyewe atakuja kutuambia mambo inaendaje. This is a guy, this is a fighter. He's a one man who was really was gone through a lot of crisis and he's come out bouncing like a bouncing baby boy. So he's gonna tell us this story kidogo. Na pia tutazungumzia mambo pia ambayo yamekuwa kiendelea just week. Wanaitwa wamama ama unajua ninaweza kutumia jina mbaya. Okay, women, Chad industry talk about men. Because last week we talked about women. So I think there could be never a timely time to talk about men than this week, also considering a lot of things that have been happening on the interwebs. So we're going to have a conversation around men and crisis and how you can get through the things that you go through as a man. But anyway, before we start, this is Common Sense Edition, being the Monday of 3rd May. The Common Sense Edition gives you an open talk about business and money. Business, money and life. Business, money and life. Lakini leo tutazungumzia mambo ya maisha. Alafu next week tutaangalia mambo ya mapesa kidogo. Lakini leo tuangalie mambo ya maisha mwanaume. The Way of Men. We are going to review also the book, The Way of Men. You can get the book, The Way of Men, for only 100 shillings from Captain Collins Wanderi. Nitakuchapia namba hapo. Nataka kuchukua kitabu ili kusoma. As we review today, you also need to get the book so that you can get to understand the ways of men. What is the way of men, and how do you become a man? Why should we call you a man, or why should society call you a man, and how are you supposed to live the life of men? Anyway, kabla hujaanza kama kawaida lazima tuende mbele za Mungu tuombe, alafu tukirudi tunajua inakuwa vipi. Wacha leo Captain tuombe. Ulituombea last week. Yes. Eriko, kazi kwako.
All right, let's pray. Father, we want to thank you this morning for giving us such a golden opportunity to be alive. We want to thank you for an opportunity to discuss, to share, to exchange knowledge and to learn from each other. Just as the Bible says that iron sharpens iron, we pray that we are going to sharpen each other. We are not perfect men ourselves. We continue to run from you the way of being a man, Lord. So this morning as we discuss the topic of manhood, we pray that you're going to lead us and you're going to guide us, Lord. We remember all the men out there. We remember the challenges they are going through. We remember their dreams and their aspirations. And we pray that King in glory, you shall lead them and guide them and provide for them and provide for all their needs. We exalt you and say that you're worthy, and we pray this, trusting and believing in Jesus' name.
Amen. Asante sana, na tayari majamaa wameshakimeza kushare. Kama kawaida, I request that when you join, please like. When you like, I get to know that you're watching us, and after you like, please share. When you share, you give someone else an opportunity to watch the broadcast. Karibu sana na Darlington Kariuki kasema yuko ndani. Asante sana. Let us keep going. Good morning to Yolunga Amunga Aluta continue all the way from Convent United Kingdom. Asema morning, enjoying the show from Convent United Kingdom. I normally look forward to Monday edition because there's a lot to learn. No human is limited. Thanks. Asante sana. You're going to talk about the way of men. Aluta Amunga Aluta continue. You can get your book, The Way of Men. Contact Captain Collins Wanderi. Pesa ni 100 tu, lakini kwa sababu wewe uko Convent United Kingdom unatumia euros, 100 euros. Anyway, the book The Way of Men. Anasema normally look forward to Monday. Robbie Chaps anasema hello. Edmond Kemba inside. Asante sana Edwin Kiprop tuned in. Asante Wesley anasema yuko logged in. Karibu sana kijana, you need to learn the ways of men. Mashuge Denley anasema good morning from Itumbe Kisii. Jared Kipkemba Ruto anasema yuko logged in. David Kamau, good morning team Tackle. Happy to see you new month, new week. Asante sana Sagari Saki anasema watching from London. Thank you. Jared Kimeto mwenyewe mheshimiwa wa Tapsagoi anasema good morning, God bless Gerald, good morning Gerald, blessed week. Asante sana, salimia tu wa Tapsagoi sana, ambia tunasalimia zaidi kutoka the Tackle. Naona Kiblagat Kipto Kimnamdo anasema pamoja Mr. Cheptapkuri Rest anasema good morning GB, good morning to you treasurer wa Yuda. Asante sana, karibu. Mwangi Simeon Gasman anasema locked kutoka Ndeya. Asante sana Redox Moshana watching the show. Asante Redox Moshana anasema ndani kama rais wa Lanyasi. ndani kabisa rais ya Walanyasi. Asante sana. Zakari Zaki, good morning to Tackle team. Asante Rashid Abdallah Chamaswe top 5 morning. Karibu sana Rashid Chamaswe. Don Kim, I'm live from Mereweta. Asante sana tu amtana, shukuru sana. Pop Kapombe tuned in from Lolongo. Commissioner Lemi Dangote logged in from Nyeri. Jimmy Gakio, jambo. Asante sana Aaron Deritu, good morning sir. Say I to CEO. Asante sana Aaron Deritu, and also thank you for sharing, we really appreciate you. Sheriff Drinkwater Yosh anasema yuko ndani. Kile first Nara Makau, good morning live always from Kipchabo 029. Thank you. Chelagat Mary anasema good morning watching from Westlands. MC Kalia, jambo, Monday edition. Asante sana MC Kalia chairman Meno Kusha Kettle Dip, it's good to see you. Please don't join in, please like. When you like, I get to know that you're watching us. I'm not like, please share. When you share, you give someone else an opportunity to wide the broadcast. This is the Tackle Common Sense edition, being the Monday of 3rd May 2021. Karibu sana kwenye Tackle, tuzungumzia the ways of men, na pia tuangazie mambo pale kidogo. Tulikuwa tunasoma kitabu The Ways of Men or The Way of Men. If you want to read the book as well, you can get it only for 100 shillings from Captain Collins Wanderi, so that you can learn. That's a roadmap. I mean, it was manual, the way of men. Karibuni sana. I'll start with you, mgeni wetu Levi Kones. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Fine. Good to see you.
Glad to be here.
Now you also hosted. The other time you turned me hosted. Now I'm also turning you hosted.
Now we're on the other side, yeah.
How does it feel being on the other side of the
I
microphone?
don't know. It's a little bit unnerving. I'm feeling shy, actually.
Hi, Karibu sana. It's good to see you. And I know you're not very new on these sides, but I want to give you an opportunity as well to introduce yourself to the tacklers.
Yeah, my name
Because
is
you're new on the tackle.
I'm Levi Kones. I'm a journalist by profession. And I am a God-fearing, fun-loving guy.
Hallelujah.
A husband to one wife.
And you're not, there's another one called the dedicated partner. You're not a dedicated partner to anybody.
No, I don't have a dedicated partner to the same. Father of 3 lovely daughters.
Amazing.
And I'm a God-fearing, fun-loving guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You had to really underline fun loving.
Oh yeah, I like to say, we try not to be boring in this life.
That's true.
Yeah.
Na hii maisha ni kafupi ba.
Hii maisha ni fupi.
Ukipeleka na stress itakumaliza.
Utakwisha.
Alright, wacha tukimbiza na salamu Captain Collins Wanderi, jambo.
Jambo sana.
It's good to see you.
And I'm happy to be here.
Mm-hmm.
And also to meet Levi.
Mm-hmm.
Levi is a star. His face is familiar. I think we saw it sometimes back on our screens.
Mm-hmm.
It's good to have him in
That's
the show.
Akingangana na kilo.
Let the cat out of the bag.
Alipambana na kilo mpaka akapata bibi huko ba. Ndio jamani mnoma. Ni sunuka.
Kutoka bure.
Kutoka bure ba. Jamaa kutengeneza movie.
That is a
ya
long time
Mexico.
ago. That's like 8 years ago.
Well, people
Wow.
hardly forget. When you do something like that,
Yeah.
people will not forget easily.
Maybe what he should tell us is that that was the whole intention of going for Slim Possible.
The way of man. Was it?
Was it the way of
Was
men?
it the whole
was
idea?
entirely an accident. Entirely an accident.
Was it?
Levi, are you
I didn't
sure?
anticipate. Honestly speaking.
That's a very good accident.
Those are the accidents we want, but you work with something. You gain some weight.
It had nothing to do with it.
So how did it happen? Now that you're saying it was not intentional, what was the story?
Well, I went there, I wasn't expecting to be picked, to be honest, because I was from Eldred that time, living in Eldred. And most of the people who get picked on that particular show were being picked from the Nairobi environments.
Okay.
So a cousin of mine really pushed me and said, go. And at that time, I had just come out of a really tough relationship.
Okay.
And I was like a heartbroken guy. There's a lady who had left me for another guy. So nilikuwa pia na maumivu ya roho. So so I went in there to find something to do, as well as see if I could find some fun in it. Like I told you, fun-loving guy. So and plus losing weight was actually an issue because I had been very heavy for many years. I schooled in America, and I was a pretty skinny guy before I went to the States. And then when I went there, I don't know what happened. People say it's the food. I don't know it's the what. Something happens.
You gained weight.
Yeah, like massively.
After how many kgs?
140.
Wow, it's quite huge.
Yeah. Look at even the guys.
That's the thing.
Sasa hii ingebidi tumebomoa ndio ingie studio.
It's me and you be talk combined.
Hata mimi na wewe na captain na kijana wangu kama sasa.
Yeah. So when I went for that show, I didn't have any expectations, and along the way there was a lady who was working there at Royal Media, and she used to come and help with sound for the show. So I noticed her. We started talking. Kidogo, things started happening.
You hear how men run away from responsibilities. We started talking rather than I started talking to her.
You made the move.
I did. By the way, initially,
you went hunting.
Initially, she was not interested.
Yeah.
But I was quite persistent.
Yeah, na this village from Eldoret.
Yeah, and because we spent so much time together because of her work with this particular show,
yes,
we began talking a lot. And in a short time, we were talking very deep things. I was telling her about all the mistakes I'd made in my life. She was telling me about the things she had been through. She was very honest with who she was, and that was very attractive. And she was a single mom of 2 at that moment. And by the time I was proposing, it was like I mentioned to the director that I wanted to propose to this girl after the show. My intention was never to do it within the show.
Okay.
But I had the ring with me, and I talked to her, and she kind of ambushed me. If you look at that show, you realize that I was even shocked myself. They thought it was a good thing for their show. So before I knew it, Lillian Muli was calling my name.
And
So
it was a good thing for your heart.
It was either now I do it, or I have egg on my face. So I did it, not knowing whether the answer would be yes or no. It was a really
Dangerous step.
It was.
No. If you don't take risks,
You'll
never get
The way of man is the way of risk.
it was.
the way of man is that you must get out and take a risk.
Yeah. In hindsight, God is good. At least that happened because, and shortly after that, I was really trolled on social media.
Okay.
Yeah, the ex came
were
out.
you?
Oh yeah. I was on the Nairobian. I was in Daily Post. I was
When Daily Post was Daily Post.
when Daily Post was Daily and Jacko.
Niliaingia huko bana miaka zingine.
Uliwaingia huko?
2014.
Kama hujaingia huko, haujatembea kwa hii maisha. Trolling seems to be part of the experience of life nowadays. So the lady came out with the woodworks and said she was my wife and said I had beaten her up. I ended up in court.
Wow.
For 5 years I was in court with this lady until the case was thrown off.
Who took you to court? She took you to
She
court?
took me to court. And Robert Alai really did me great harm during that time. We are friends now, but hata yeye anajua
Alikufanya.
alinifanyia mambo.
And that's not the way of man.
That's
It's not the way of men. The way of men requires that a man be a man's man.
The
What
brother's
it means to
keeper.
be a man's
a man's man. Yeah.
And when you hold up your brother, you actually being a man's man, and every man needs his man.
Yeah. Yeah. So we got married. I got engaged, of course, that night. Got married, and it's been 8 years.
Wow.
Now we have 3 kids.
Amazing.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, bro. That's good. Nikirudi tuambie mambo ya America. Eriko.
How are you?
I welcome my brother to the show and just to commend him. I mean, it's even for him to face the cameras, to accept that he had a problem with his weight is a big example for other men on how to confront their own personal issues. And just to encourage people out there, because this issue of weight is a big issue in our society, nobody's talking about it, and say that the first step to confronting the problem is to actually acknowledge it.
That it's there.
And start hitting the road, walking, hit the gym if you can, and be able to do something. It's been a good week. As you know, I don't have a very eventful weekends. Many times I just spend my weekend.
You hibernate.
I hibernate just to reflect and re-energize. And of course, I was finishing the homework that our big brother had given us on reading the book, The Way of Man.
Man.
Very engaging, very powerful conversation right there in the book, a very short book that I want to encourage the men who are watching us to actually take time and read. Yeah.
Asante sana. See, Eric, I don't know what reflections those were that you having another weekend. You're saying you are reflecting.
Also it was my birthday week.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And we owe you a birthday shower. In fact, I think we should drown you right after this.
The way to celebrate a man's birthday, is through his M-Pesa.
No. The way of man is to drown.
It's to make his M-Pesa ring.
You should drown so that
You see that message saying
so that
confirmed.
then you can pay somebody to lauder your clothes.
We need to shower you. So after you need to sit very strategically. In fact, when you're leaving the studio, you need to live very strategically. There's a back door you need to use it. But happy birthday, bro.
Thank you.
How does it feel turning a year older?
I mean, it's a blessing. I mean, getting older is a true blessing. I mean, you're living a life that is not yours. You've been given free by God. And also, this is a very special year to celebrate a birthday. When we look back at the havoc that COVID has reigned on people's lives and families, for you to be looking back and see that you're in good peace together, your family is in peace, your extended family is in peace, that can only be a blessing from God. These are things that we cannot pay for, as life has proven it. They can only be given to us free by God. My reflections, actually have rotated around that issue of masculinity and the whole concept of manhood, based on the book that Captain has diligently made us read. And the fact that today as a man you find yourself looking at two scripts. There is the traditional script. The traditional script defines masculinity traditional concept. Yeah. And then there is the civilized script that is telling you what kind of a man to be today. And so you are a man who is caught between two worlds and the confusion thereof and the decisions now that you have to make as a man in society. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Does it scare you getting older? You know, getting older is so very scary in reality.
Quite honestly, I think sometimes it does. I mean, when you look at the life ahead, it's completely unknown to you. You don't know whether you will be more healthier. You don't know whether you'll be more powerful or less powerful. There's a lot of uncertainty in today's world. And for you as a small little man on earth, I think if you leave it to your devices, to your resources as a man, to your thoughts and your ideas as a man, you can get scared. But then you have to remember that there's a God up there in heaven, who is the Father of us all.
Yeah, they say, you know, the older you get, the closer you get to your death, to expiry. That's a scary reality. Anyway, Levi.
Yes.
Two things. Safari ya America. Alafu, you know, there's one thing again you've been really, and this is why I celebrate this guy, because I mean, Levi is, if there's a man, I don't know if I could ever rise from what you've risen from. This guy actually was sick. He had cancer.
Wow.
And he's battled it so confidently. And even in his sick bed, you could still feel the energy of, you know, you want to get back on your feet, and usually back on your feet. First, let's even start with that before you even go to those stories or Safari America. How does it feel finally getting yourself back on the feet?
Very well. How can I put it? It's an interesting journey. It's an interesting journey because when I was diagnosed with cancer, I had just turned 40.
Wow.
That was about 3.5 years ago. And I had not seen it in my to-do list.
It was not in your checklist.
No. Cancer was a thing I was thinking, over 55, over 60, somewhere else. And it crept up on me. You know how men do not go for physical checks. It had been a long time coming. I had had abdominal pains. I had had some dizziness. My wife had caught on to it and kept telling me, see, when they check. But I kept on thinking, going to a hospital, taking a whole day to go through tests was not time I had. Or so I thought. Until one day I went to work and I could not walk properly. And I was about to faint. I didn't really faint, but I could feel like the world was spinning. And that's how I ended up in hospital. And then consequent tests began that eventually ended up discovering the cancer. It was colon cancer stage 3 at that time. The doctor was not very optimistic with it because it had gone through both walls of the colon. It looked like I was about to get a colostomy bag. I don't know whether you guys know what that is.
What is it?
They put a bag on the side of your stomach, and people have it where you now have to pass your waist there, as opposed to the normal way. Which was something that really, and you know, the interesting thing is most people do not know much about cancer, like myself, until you get it. Then you Google stuff, and then you discover there are very many shocking things that happen to people medically, and people battle. So I was really scared of getting that bag. The other thing I was really scared of was dying, because at that moment in time, it wasn't really the fear of death and ending. It was a fear of so much unaccomplishment in my life. You know, I thought about, you know, what the Bible says about a good man leaving an inheritance for his children, and there I was still paying rent, you know, just leaving bills. Good men leave inheritances, bad men leave bills. And I was in the latter. You know, everything was just, including the bill of the funeral. You know, so it seemed like it was a really a big wake-up call in that regard. So when I began the process of chemo and the operations, I had 2 operations, I thought, let me document it. If I die in the process, then so be it. But maybe somebody else can get something from what I'm documenting that can help them in the path. Because when I was trying to Google stuff about people who have gone through things, a lot of the people I was finding were not in Kenya. Very few men talk about what they went through. And unfortunately for us, when we are sick, we really want to get to hear from someone else, how was it like, so that we have a bit of an expectation. Like a preview of what's going to happen. So that's why I was really documenting, because I thought maybe somebody else will find it interesting. And I decided to get as detailed as possible. So I began writing on Facebook about it. I think that's where you must have seen.
Yeah, that's why I saw it. Because I actually didn't know.
And I wanted to be as candid as possible, so I expressed my fears, my thoughts, the processes, the things I was discovering as well. And it was a good experience for me because it was also quite a healing experience. And I think at this point, let me just tell all the guys, because I also came to discover that there are many men who have gone through cancer and beaten it and don't say.
Okay.
And I really want to encourage those people who have to talk, because testimonies help people.
Yeah.
You know, they encourage people and they encourage themselves. This thing helped me want to continue to keep fighting. And it also took my mind away from what was happening to me at that time.
Sure.
Because when I would sit with my laptop in the hospital, while other people are looking at the ceiling, you know, and counting your days and stuff, I realized I was not getting as stressed as some people were. And the doctors say that, you know, the healing starts from the inside before it's outside.
Starts from the mind.
Regardless of the religious inclination, whether it's a Hindu doctor or a Christian doctor, because I went to India eventually, they say the same thing, that, you know, it's about what you exude
From within.
And really, it's true. So many patients I've seen since then who are very negative of themselves. They don't really survive long. So post that, after I had gone through the, you know, the whole treatment and stuff, I do what I would call a ministry, really. Where, and it wasn't something I actually started and said, this is a ministry, but people began writing to me, oh, I have a brother. He's just been diagnosed with colon cancer. Would you speak to him? I've got a sister would you speak to him? So as a result, I took it upon myself to speak to and go see everybody who actually reaches out, which I do. As of now, right now, I am seeing around 18 people or so.
Oh, wow.
Regularly. We have tea, we have talks, we go to the hospital, we chat, we laugh, we cry. I have lost some patients, which is really sad. But in the process, I'm also learning still about not only the fragility of the human life, but also the real desire for life and the things that are important in life. Because while I was so concerned with what I was living, the truth of the matter is I've never seen anyone at any funeral talk about what they owned. The children don't come and say, Daddy had a big house.
True.
They come and say, Daddy used to like laughing, or he used to act like this when he was angry, or he took us to this place, and talk about the experience. And it's good that we do the physical things, the houses, the cars, you name it. But the better thing is to actually have the impact, the day-to-day real life experiences with our children. So that's what I can say I have learned in a nutshell.
What were some of your most scariest moments?
When I went for the first surgery. You know, I'd never been to a surgery before. And the doctor came and told me, you know, after we had a discussion, and this doctor was very candid with me with what would happen. He said 4 things could happen here. This is just before we had surgery. You know, you have to sign off that whatever happens, you have given them power over your body. So he told me, number 1, we can go in and discover that what we are looking for here in terms of the tumor is too much. There's nothing we can do about it, and we close you up. He said, number 2, we can go in and discover the tumor, remove it, fix you up, and things are okay. Number 3, we could go in and make a mistake that might change the course of how you live. Wow. Like the colostomy bag, you know, or, you know, maybe some injuries that you'd have to do for the rest of your life. Or number 4, we could go in and you might not come out.
Worst case scenario.
And those are the factors. So I told him, okay, give me a minute, I want to pray. And I only had maybe 2 minutes. So the amount of sins I've done could not.
There are more than 120.
You needed 2 hours.
And these are 120
Possible to
Could
confess.
not be beaten
To confess na kuomba msamaha.
in the 2 minutes I had. So I just told God, you know, in summation,
Samehe tu jo.
mimi ni mwanadhambi na nimefanya makosa and all that. And I began to feel like a peace. And I told myself, you know, whatever happens. And I found myself, you know, crying because I was like, man, this could be it. So they strapped me up, you know, they put you like it's like the way of the cross, really, because it's like a cross thing. So one hand is this way, and they have a lot of gizmos they put there, blood pressure machine, I don't know what, nini, is running. On this side they put something, and then there were 3 doctors. And then they asked me, are you relaxed? And I said yes, and they all laughed because all the machines were saying different things. My heartbeat ziko, my blood pressure ziko juu. What I was saying was not matching.
Yeah.
And then he told me, now count from 100, and it was, you know, they put the mask, so you start counting, and before you get even to 95,
You're done.
you're gone.
Fell asleep.
So in that moment, it's a blackout. You wake up and it's like you woke up a minute later, but then you discover it's around 6 hours later, or I don't know, 7 hours later, and you're now in the room and stuff like that. And you really realize that there are things that you cannot control in your life. Now, what was scary was when that happened, a week later, I had a complication. Nilikuwa nimepona, sasa nimeanza kutembea, I'm trying to learn. I mean, we should really respect women who do cesareans.
Yeah.
You know? Because getting to walk again is not easy. First, I had a problem because I didn't want the catheter at all. That thing, you know, for those who don't understand, the catheter is a pipe they put, so you have to pee through a pipe. I wanted to go to the bathroom. So my first steps to the bathroom were really painful, but that's what I wanted to do. At least to be able to go to the bathroom on my own. So I began learning how to walk. Then I got discharged about 7 days later. So I started going home. And at home, you know, I'm moving back and forth. And one day I got a really bad stomachache. And kumbe, there was a complication with what had happened with that surgery. So when I went back to hospital, the doctor told me, we have no choice but to go back in again.
Oh my God.
So same story. Back again. Same, you know, you sign up again. You talk to Jesus again.
So what did you tell Jesus that time?
I don't even know now. Last time I wasn't as serious as now. Now I'm very serious. Yeah, and then that was one scary part. The other scary part was chemo. You know, when you Google chemo, because most of us, when we are sick, we go to Google first. And when you Google some of these things, it will tell you a lot of things, and a lot of them are really terrible.
The problem with Google, Bana, you Google, then you find you should have died last week.
Yeah.
The most scariest thing about Google.
It is.
And nobody says that Google confirms what you're fearing.
What you're fearing. And then I discovered everything I was Googling, I started feeling. You know, the human mind is just a great computer. Eh?
Yeah.
It just regurgitates the things you put in. So there I was just, it's like when how many people have had fake corona? I mean, when corona came, and everyone was reading temperature, I'm sure even most of us here, we spent a night thinking, ala,
lazima kamefika.
Kikohozi kidogo.
Kigozi kidogo. Joto.
Ni homa ya kawaida ama ni corona?
And you panic like, goodness. Will it take me? So that was the same thing. Those are some of the real fearful moments. And there's not a single person who has not thought about the end result, because since we do not know what really happens when you die, it is a factor in how we approach also diseases. And then of course people also start talking to you funnily. Even my own mom, she'd call me on the phone and then goes like, habari yako, yani ameleta tatoni ya ugonjwa
Ya kusonga.
Even the tone bana is
Unaona hii nimeenda.
Guys, me I'm thinking, am I the one not taking these things seriously?
Yeah.
You know this?
So let me ask you, Levi.
Yeah.
Did you at any single point make peace with death? Like,
Yes.
okay.
Because of cancer, even now I'm at peace with death.
Okay.
Very much at peace with death. In fact, I keep imagining that in the off chance, because every time I the thing of living this day as if it was your last is so real in my life. Because one of the things that really struck me when I had cancer was I lost some friends. They didn't have cancer. 2 very close friends of mine. One died in a road accident, and the other one had a heart attack. These 2 guys had visited me in the hospital. Both of them had come to see me, who was presumably dying.
Yeah.
Then they went before me. The thing about cancer is the awakening to the fact that it should not take a disease for you to realize your mortality. Every day we are at risk of dying. In fact, I keep telling people, if you're old enough to breathe, you're old enough to die. It's the only qualification. So you are not at a... And it's the thing I tell cancer patients too, the ones I talk to. You're not closer to death than I am. I could walk out here and get hit by a lorry.
True.
And could go. Another guy could wait for cancer 15 years and go. Another one could get it for 2 weeks and have just diagnose you a Leo in 3 weeks ameenda. So the thing is to live like we are constantly going, and in that living, then you find some peace with the fact that you're a mortal human being, and this is just another transition that will happen to you. So right now, very much at peace. In fact, so much at peace with death that my wife thinks I'm a morbid chap.
But before that, when you were sick, did you get scared at some point? Because you were saying you were scared at first about because you live. Is that time when you were sick and you maybe probably face the ceiling and I'm like, it looks like if I sleep, I'm gonna die?
Absolutely. I Googled What happens when you die? And their results. You'll be surprised. Over 1 million hits. Guys have written there, utaona sijui bright light, sijui outer body experience, sijui ni. And I began feeling sometimes niko kwa bed.
Kama nimeenda. Unashtuka unaamuka. Una confirm kwanza kama bado unaishi.
Yeah, I had quite a number of anxiety attacks. So definitely there's that, the fear of the unknown is there. And I don't think it completely goes, because even the back of our minds, there's like a fear of the unknown. But I think there's an acceptance as well that this will happen. And when you accept that it will happen, and you not fully prepare really, but you kind of allow your body to accept that this is a journey you must undergo. The same way I was at the mercy of these doctors. You know, I couldn't wake up and walk away from the operation room. It's now going to happen. So ukishajieka hapo unakubali tu.
Has your experience made you more courageous or more fearful in life, in your opinion?
I think more, I don't want to say courageous, but more, how do I put it?
I'm listening to you, Levi. I think you're very pragmatic and practical. You're living the moment, you're living the present.
Yeah, I think.
I don't think, and the description you've given is that to you, the present and what can be done today matters most.
True.
Yes,
True.
Yesterday's
I wouldn't
gone.
call it courage. Yeah. But it's not fear either. You know, it's
It's kaishish thing.
It's life.
Yani unaogopa kwenda lakini
it's
uogopi
more
tena.
acceptance.
Yes.
That's what will be.
Will be.
Yeah.
Bitok,
Wow.
have you given Levi the book When Breath Becomes Air?
I'm not sure if he's read it, but you should.
No, I haven't read it.
You should read
You
it.
should.
This is your story, actually. But anyway, the difference is that the other guy actually left the group. He went. But I mean, it's the shock of the reality of life on what can happen. You know, over today you're healthy, then tomorrow, you know, you're sick with a whole dream and career ahead of you. And the most scary thing about death is that you come in touch with your situation. Like the things you've always wanted to achieve, the things you want to become, and the reality that you could never actually get there. So when Breath Becomes There is a book that you must read. I would tell you must read it, because it will speak to your mind. The most unfortunate thing is that this guy did not remain to tell the story. In fact, the most tragic thing about the book is where it ends.
Yes.
It ends where it shouldn't. It ends where this guy could not write anymore.
Unannounced.
Yeah, like where the guy could not write anymore. The story ends.
You're still writing it?
Yes,
Yeah.
when he died.
Levi, the man is medical doctor. And he gets a fiancé, he gets married. Life is going on very well for him. And he gets appointed to good positions in a good hospital in St. Francisco. Then he starts to feel the same things, as you're saying, pain, abdomen. Then he goes for tests and he has stage 4 cancer.
Oh, wow.
And you see, he's a medical doctor.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have to Google.
Yeah.
Oh, he knows the stats.
What you Google is what he
Guy,
wrote.
he knows the, he knows the shit.
He makes a
He knows the
decision.
drill.
He makes a decision, like you were telling us, that he decides to live every day as if it were his last. And he is to make very important decisions, whether to even make a child with his wife.
Yeah.
Okay. And as you say, there is also the question of who is a man.
Yeah.
Very important, because even of the discussion we are having today.
Yeah.
Very good thing you said. That good men leave legacy and inheritance.
Yeah.
But bad men leave bills. So he also had the same thought. So again, he's got to talk to his partner. So they talked and they got a child. And along the way, he continues writing as
the days come. And I think,
the days go
I wonder, guys, what you guys would think. And I want to ask you, Captain, because you're senior. How do you feel if, you know, we are very excited about mornings. Like, you know, what's a sequisha? You get it? Now, this is a guy who is running against his timeline. It's supposed to expire.
yes.
Let me ask you, if today we told you you're going to die in the next 7 months, how did it feel like waking up in the morning?
Bitok, you know, I've been in those situations, you know, military training. And you deployed. I had active deployment in my service life 3 times.
Wow.
And in those 3 times, you know, those are stories you Kenyans may not know, but then you wake up one day and I'm told I go to Moya base and I'm told, you see the list, there's an OPO, an operational order. You so-and-so, you're supposed to go and report to Brigadier XYZ at Defense Headquarters for further deployment. Then you see dress code, FSMO, full-scale marching order. It means I'm going in total combat gear as I'm going to war. So when you go to FSMO, I've got to carry a rifle, I've got to carry a Browning pistol. So in other words, you make peace with yourself that morning. That I left the house driving, these civilian clothes. Now I've got to wear a combat uniform. No idea, and nobody gives you details on the deployment. So you go, you're told we're heading here and here. It's happening. So you know if there is contact combat, it could be you, Eric, or Bitok.
True.
You get. True. So at that point, you make certain declarations to yourself. This is me. I signed up to this. I know it can happen to me. So at a certain point, we get somewhere, and the head of mission says, "Please make your calls, your last calls to your relatives." You get that? You're making your
last calls.
Last calls. That's the difference between police service and the military. When you get going somewhere there's likely to be action of combat, you don't carry your phone, because your phone can be the weakest link to you dying. So what happens is you told make your calls. The phones are labeled. They are put in a bag and put together. You switch them off. If you if you survive, you're gonna get back your phone. If you're not part of that, so what Levi is saying is that it is such a reality that life is that fickle.
Yeah, and let me tell you, at some point I even snapped. Actually, I have a newfound respect for what you say, for the military guys and people like firefighters who go into a fire not knowing they're going to come out, and even thugs who go to carjack people. You don't know what's going to happen. I mean, those guys are really brave chaps. But here's the thing: after I'd done 9 chemo sessions, kudos to my wife, she really tried. She googled foods and was telling me blend this, and I used to wake up to the sound of the blender. Una mixiwa vitu hapo, kunywa hii sijui ni mwarobaini, sijui na kunywa hii sijui nafanya nini, and every time I'm just given a glass, I just take. And then it became that cancer, I felt, had dictated everything I was doing. One time I went for a birthday party at a friend's place, and I wanted to have some cake. And my wife and I got into an argument because I was not supposed to eat cake.
Oh, you got into an argument with your wife?
Yes, because I have, she cares. I have cancer, na sasa ujamaa anataka kula keki, na ni sukari, na sijui tumesikia tumor feeds on the sugar. So she's like, no. So I'm like, I want to have a cake. So she said, okay, you want to have cake cooler than all the cake you want, and cut out for me a big piece, and we should eat on my plate there. And I just snapped. So I walked out of that house. And I went home and packed a bag and went to Mombasa and zimmed my phone. And the thing that was even in my mind, even when I came back, when they finally found me, I told them, look, I am sick and tired of cancer dictating
my life,
what I eat, where I go, how I do things. I'm not doing it anymore, I told them.
Wow.
When I feel like eating something, I'll eat it. Too bad. Ikitaka kuniua anyway.
Ukeka free.
Nikaeka free ni because
Kinungi
Zambia inaitwa
uko na iko nje. Nikaeka Zambia.
But I also realized that was part of the mental struggle with what was happening to me, because we give counseling to people who have been diagnosed with HIV and AIDS. Do you know people get cancer and they're told you have cancer? No one never talks to them.
True.
About the process.
True.
In fact, if I was a legislator, I was saying I wish I could tell the people in parliament to make it mandatory to have counseling for terminal diseases if you've been diagnosed with one. The way we say for AIDS, if you have cancer, let someone walk with you.
Yeah.
And also ask you, how are you doing mentally? Because this thing is also messing with your head.
True. Very true.
And every time you turn around, unaambiwa tu, it gets sickening. Unaambiwa, sijui ati you need to, before you have something to eat, you need to drink sijui lemon water asubuhi, and it's now you have to take this for that. You can only walk so far. You're a cancer patient, just sit over there. Don't engage in this activity. It's sickening.
Because you feel like you're not in control of your life.
Yeah. So I'm a lot more pragmatic now, because I've also seen, it's like, the way we have seen, some smokers have smoked and not gotten lung cancer, but some have.
Finally he accepts my word.
Yes.
Lev is very pragmatic.
And,
that's what you want finally.
And Levi, yours is a very good lesson. Absolutely agree with you. Though we stopped calling terminal diseases terminal, we call them long distance
Yes.
elements because you're with them for a long time.
Long distance ailments.
We don't call them terminal because you've been around.
Yeah, but you know, they do not, let me tell you, doctors do not tell you you're cancer free. Like me, I am not medically cancer free. I'm in remission. My doctor reminds me all the time that there's a possibility.
That's why
That it will
I
come
said
back. In fact, a high possibility because they report us at 40. You know, so you don't get cancer free.
so. That's why I'm correcting you. Don't call it terminal because you're still here and you're going to be here for a long time.
Amen to that.
Because you have a mission, and the
To
mission you
accomplish.
have is to talk to those people. Remember, I've said when I was in the forces, people even get debilitating injuries. Okay, and if you go to forces memory, you'll find people without a leg. But you've seen soldiers. You've got to get out of that. You know, a soldier, a guy who goes running in the morning. You know, if I die in a soul, you know, with a lot of strength. And one day, you told your leg has got to be cut because you've stepped on an IED or a mine.
It's mentally torturing.
You know, and then he's got to go through that. And you've said something very right. And just before I left the Defense Forces, we were able to introduce counseling so that people can accept those situations. Okay, and it's not that easy. And I like what you're doing because you're not talking theory. You know, there are many counselors who do that. They talk theory. But you are living it. You are the example.
It's practical.
You are the example. And when you talk to somebody, I wish I had known him because you'd have talked to my uncle because we lost him in 2019. And perhaps there are many people I have lost in life, but I have never really gotten quite over because he was the man to go to. Anybody in our family, including my parents, you want to deal with issues of dowry, issues of culture. Not only was he an elder and a chair of a PCA presbytery, he was also really well healed in matters of culture and religion.
Pillar of the society.
Yeah, pillar of the society. And even before I could even finish a write-up I was doing with him on how culture intertwines with religion, he left us, you know. He also had the strength and belief. I will go through it. One day I spent 9 hours with him trying to dissuade and tell him, Uncle, I don't think it is time. Okay? Because you've said, you've already made up your mind that I am going to do this. Well, this is it. For him, he was still, having, it may happen, may not happen. You know, he was always
He never
in
really
doubt.
committed to that.
He never really committed. And as you say, healing comes from within. I remember when I started noticing that something is wrong with one side of his chest because of the discharge, I could tell the other side is okay. So he was still very strong and talking. And I called his son and I told him, you've got to be around, okay? Because I was the person in Nairobi really doing things for him. And one time he says, oh, there are mosquitoes here. So Levi, I've got to go running all over, try to get a gel to fight off mosquitoes. Because he had done so much for us in life that you want to give the best to him at that point. But I was also feeling
like he didn't give it his all.
Yes, he was 50-50.
Yeah.
And perhaps that is a message I have picked from you, that when people are in this situation, what they need is somebody to remind them that the will to live and survive
should be stronger. I always make people that I talk to watch a movie called The Perfect Storm. I don't know if you guys have ever seen it. It's a George Clooney movie. So it's 3 hours long. It's about some fishermen who go fishing, looking for fish. And when they're out there, a great storm gathers. They go to a place where they've been looking for fish in the usual places, but our party. But wanaambiwa kuna samaki really deep in the Pacific. And when they go there, they really get a lot of fish. They are very successful. And on their way back, these storms gather. 6 men. And as the storms gather, the waves begin to beat at their small, tiny boat. So they battle wave after wave after wave. And it's a very sad movie because just when they begin to see the sunlight and begin to see that they're coming out of the storm, because they call it the perfect storm because it was 3 storms in one. They came together and these guys were in the eye. They encounter another wave that is an impossible wave. So they see it coming, it's building like a really heavy wall, and they talk to each other. They're like, anyway, guys, we did our best. And they drown. And I tell the reason why I tell my patient, these guys drowned. But in their hearts, they know. They gave this thing the best they could ever do. Ikikushinda, ikushinde. Lakini wacha tu, let's go, would you rather go down swinging? Or would you rather, unaambiwa tu, okay, it's like entering a boxing ring. You see, if David had seen Goliath, and then he just said, okay, no, Goliath, wacha tu nilale tu chini. Swing the thing. It might hit the fellow and...
you never know.
And take him down. Yeah. But
Eric, I don't know if you have anything to say about Eric. And I don't ask you also, we are relatively the same age. And every morning you wake up, you want to achieve something. You plan 5 years ahead. You plan 10 years. There's a way you want to be. And I was asking if you get scared at times when you're growing older. For a reason. Because the older you get, the more you get in reality the fact that, you're becoming shorter and shorter of what you want to achieve. If today you are living against that day, like, in the next 6 or 7 months or 5 years or 3 years, let's say 2 years, you're going to die. How would it feel like waking up every morning? Do you still wake up?
I think some of these situations are really difficult to simulate in your mind until the time when you're practically in them. I like the example that Captain and our brother here gives, because for them it's not optional. You're told, you're going into a battlefront, and now you have to really contend with the fact that you can actually die. But I think if I had such a short time to live, quite honestly, I think a lot of priorities would change. When I read the book by Dr. Paul Kalanithi, that is the reality that actually struck my mind, that some of the ambitions that we have are actually based on a luxury of time or a luxury of presumed availability of time. That if you are stripped of that luxury mentally and you are told, you know what, you thought you had 20 years, you actually don't. There's a lot of things that you would actually classify as not important in your life and focus on the really, really important things in your life. And perhaps that is the paradigm of thought that we lose when we get busy with life, because you're always chasing the next deal, you're always chasing the development of the next product and taking it to the market. And therefore many times you can actually lose the essence of life. When I was doing my classes in psychology, there is the topic on helping clients go through end-of-life decisions. And I would say I only looked at it theoretically until now you listen to the story like of my brother, and you're like, if he came to you the day before the surgery and you had to talk to him, what really would you tell them? You would only be talking theoretically, because it is a situation that you have not gone through. But I think the consciousness to the reality that life is not permanent is a good thing for every human being. And our brother here gives a very good example that, death is not based on how healthy or sick you are.
Exactly.
It's not based on that. Yeah. You can be, sportsmen have finished matches, actually scored and won, and died of heart attacks right after. Very unexpected deaths. And I think if we carry that thought in our minds, we would make better decisions. We would perhaps be more emphatic with our fellow human beings. We would offer better leadership in the small communities that we lead, whether we are leading businesses, whether we are leading the community or the society or the country, if someone is a politician. I think death is the one thing that should distill a human being into a better self. And I think just last week you asked us the question on the article that our good politician from Meru, Murongi wrote. And you can see that when sickness and weakness and death is brought close to his mind, he becomes a more emphatic human being who begins to be introspective and ask himself of the impact that he's actually having in society.
And someone said, actually, I don't know if you've read the story, Captain, about as we even roll to the way of men. You've read a story about the origin of the Nobel Prize. And I don't know if it's theoretical, it's true, or whatever it is, it's fictitious or whatever. But the story is there was a man, a rich miner, who was making, his son was making the dynamite, the explosives during that time for the World War and other things. And he woke up one day and saw himself on obituaries, on the daily papers, that he had died. And I think they had said the dynamite merchant dies. It was something big about him.
Merchant of Death
Yes,
dies, something like that.
something like that.
Yeah.
And so when he woke up, actually, he was alive, and he was like, "Is this how I'm going to be remembered? This is not how I want to be remembered. It is how they are going to mourn me." I get it. And he got in touch with the reality of who he was at that time as a man. And he made a decision that this is not how I'm going to be remembered. And sometimes you ask yourself a lot of questions. How will I be remembered? What impact am I leaving? If I fall down today, and we haven't even known the political student having this conversation about a legacy. How do you want to be remembered even as you leave the scene? As we leave this world, I'm sure as a man you get scared. Like, brothers are saying, okay, nitaenda haje. Nitaenda na madeni kama nimeacha madeni nitawacha nini? How will these people remember me?
You know, Bitok, you remind me of one of my best writers, Stephen Covey, has written a book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective Leaders. And the second habit that he talks about says, start with the end in mind. And the way he begins that chapter of the book is that he makes you visualize a funeral. So he actually tells you, I want you to imagine a funeral. You're in a funeral, and all your best friends are in that funeral. Your family members are in that funeral. The people who matter the most are in that funeral, and the community is in that funeral. And you're on the queue to go and view the body so that you can offer your last respects to the deceased person. Only for you to get to the mirror of the coffin, the glass of the coffin, and you look at the person in the coffin and find that it is actually your face. It's you, Bitok, who has died. And now he tells you, give us the speeches that you want people to give in that funeral. Write them down for us. And so he says, whatever speeches that you would want people to give in that funeral, that end that you imagine of your life is what you should be trying to live every day of your life. So the imagination of our own deaths, our own departure, is something that should humble us into distilling ourselves to understand what really do we want to be remembered for, and then begin to ask ourselves whether we are living that life on the daily.
Wow, okay. Acha niangalie comments nikirudi tunakuja kuroll na tukiroll tutaka tusikie safari ya America. In a quick Google search of the name of Levi Connes tells you about deportation of Levi Connes.
Oh yeah.
A very quick Google search tells you about deportation of deportation of Levi Connes. So, I mean, you talked about yesterday having a conversation the other day with Eric and you talk about the mistakes that men make. The things that we call the times that mistakes that are very indelible. Acha tusikie kuna jamaa kama kuna testimony hapa. Jambo, good morning.
Morning, Bitok.
Good morning to you. How are you?
I'm okay.
Good to see you.
Yeah, this is Catherine.
Catherine, mambo?
Nzuri, habari ya leo?
Nashukuru sana. Uko salama leo? Nasikia sauti iko chini kidogo.
Chini kiasi.
Niambie.
I'm glad you have brought in a very good Davis, to me, I feel is a motivational speaker, especially to those people who have diseases yenye unashindwa unaanzia wapi unamalizia wapi. But he has really encouraged me, and from a personal experience, especially mali amenifurahisha ni hiyo, he decided to love the birthday cake. Then he packed and decided to leave the house. For sure, at times you can be so much frustrated if you have some kind of ailment. But again, you need to really fight on. I had a very, very bad experience, between the year 2007 to 2012, I had a series of surgeries. And let me tell you, because ametestiwa cancer na he has been on medication and what have you. I thank God that I've undergone a series of cancer tests and they have come out negative. Latest being last month. But when you go to get the results, let me tell you, we talk. Ulali. Unakuwa na tumbo inanguruma the whole night. It becomes so scary. But there is a book that I read, If Today Were Your Last Days on Earth, by Jerusha Muga.
If today was your last day on earth.
if today were your last days on earth.
If today was your last day on earth.
Yes, that book really gave me a lot of encouragement. And what Lewis has said, when you have cancer related, when you are diagnosed with cancer, or you think that you have cancer symptoms, you really tend to watch out on your diet. During my 2007 to 2012 predicament, I bought a lot of books, very expensive books, in regards to eating healthy, because I had a very, very minor complication, just having hernia. And when they went to repair the hernia, it resulted into a lot of complications that led to my series of surgeries between 2007 to 2012. A series of surgeries. You can imagine ukona hernia inaenda kuwa repaired. Then all of a sudden, complication arises. I used to go to the hospital after maybe 2 or 3 months, niko constipated, naambiwa nafanyiwa laparoscopy, sijui kuunganisha hizo intestines niweze kuenda haja kubwa. It was a very, very painful experience. So I used to check on my diet, watch on my weight, though mimi ni mdogo, but unaambiwa usipitishe certain weight. So it became a bit difficult. And now, the way Lewis amesema, if your relatives wanakuangalia, usikule hii, you really get pissed up because uko na hiyo tamaa.
Yeah.
I had a passion of Coke.
Coca-Cola.
So my sister, Coca-Cola. Mi nilikuwa napenda Coca-Cola. And then ukifika hospitali, unasikia there are complaints that you come to the house, ukinunua Coca-Cola unataka kuficha. So up to 2017 ndio niliacha soda. But I stopped taking the sodas after, umeshaona ile yenye hata wewe unaona it's a health hazard to your life. But unaangalia unatamani. Ukijaribu itakula, ukienda hospitali unaambiwa usikule hiki, kula hiki. You are in the house, you see people enjoying, where you're just restricted. But what I came to realize that when it comes to complications, it is just the mindset. And also at times, Levi, mimi kama juzi, I got so mad with the doctors in the hospital. Umeenda hospitali, you have a complications. Somebody tells you, unataka tufanye hii test. Unakubali. Unataka ufanye hii test. Unakubali. When the guy came in, akaniambia, Catherine, we want to do a pregnancy test. Nikamwambia, are you going to charge? Yes. Nikamwambia, there is no point of charging. And there is no point of me going for pregnancy test. Akaniuliza why? Nikamwambia, hakuna haja. I was with the radiologist. Na amenifanyia pelvis ultrasound. Wakati unapofanywa pelvis ultrasound, si huyo radiologist was supposed to detect if I'm pregnant. Why are you telling me that you're going for pregnancy test? Nilimwambia that one. I was very harsh on him. So that notwithstanding, what I have decided right now, because ilifika nikatolewa hemorrhoids zimerioka, unafanywa hii operation inakuja inarudi. So I told my sister the other week when I came from the hospital, my sister, right now they are telling me wanaenda kutoa hii growth that is in the uterus. Naenda kuambia huyo daktari, saa hii I don't need you to remove the growth. Nataka utoe the uterus. The uterus, because this growth was removed in 2012. Na tena imefanya nini?
Imerudi.
Imekurioka. Why should I be going to theater each and every time? Hapo nilikata. Because even going to those surgeries all the time, unadungwa shindano anesthesia, it also weakens your body.
Unachoka.
So basically, you really get frustrated. And there are people, I'm sorry to tell you, Bitok.
Yes.
is a very painful experience that I have some relatives wenye wakikuja kupona hospitali. Like the latest one of my closest relatives alikuja kuniona. So after alipoambiwa what I'm suffering from the diagnosis and the symptoms, she called me, I think 2 weeks later. Sasa nzuri, unaendeleaje? Naendelea nikipata nafuu. Uliacha kutapika? Kumwambia yes, niliacha kutapika. Sasa tumbo ikoje? You know that mindset.
Yes.
According to her, ni kama I'm admitted, ninatapika, I'm a lady, I'm pregnant. Are you getting those mindsets? So you really get frustrated from relatives, from friends. You get so disappointed. But I want to thank God for one of my church elders who came and confessed when at one point alikuja kuniona kwa nyumba. Kaniambia, no, many people walikuwa nasema Catherine undergo abortion. So she was like, Catherine has undergone an abortion this month. Amekuwa admitted, amefanywa operation. After 4 months, undergo an abortion. Amekuwa admitted, amefanywa operation. That was what people were saying.
Wow.
So, you know, at any given time I could go to church, I stopped putting on skirts, never free dresses because of the series of surgeries.
Yeah.
So, it really frustrates somebody psychologically.
The stigma.
Those people think should be your confidant or who should come and encourage you.
Turn against you.
Hao ndio wanakuja kukufrustrate kwa kuongea ill about you.
Pole sana.
But once you soldier on the way Lewis anaongea, life becomes normal. Na to me, sitakangi nihurumie. Hata nikitoka hospitali sitaki mtu anihurumie sana. Nikisema this is what is going on. Ebona vile anakaa. I normally don't want.
Okay.
You expect somebody to come and encourage you, but yeye anakuja ku discourage kabisa.
Zaidi.
So it is a matter of soldiering on and also trusting in the Lord. But the most painful part, the way Captain amesema ya kwamba unatoka unaenda put on a combat gear, is the same way Captain, ni kama ukienda hiyo siku unaenda kuchukua results za cancer. Then ujijui it's a day before hiyo usiku mimi mostly silalangi because you want to look at it as nani ila amesema nowadays it's not a terminal disease.
So it's a long distance journey. It's a long distance disease.
Yes.
Because it's there with you in the long run.
But all in all, the way Lewis amesema, all these cancer patients, and even when you're going in to pick your results, if you've gone for that biopsy, whatever, you should have a counseling session the way we do with HIV and AIDS.
Okay.
That one I think will encourage people. Because if mtu akiwa na roho kidogo,
anaweza enda.
Some people can get that heart attack the way you said about sportsmen. I mean, they've taken the sample. They are going for culture test and the biopsy. What next? What if nimepatikana na hiyo cancer? What is next?
Okay.
So these are people. The pre counseling should be done when unaambiwa ya kwamba they've taken a sample for biopsy. A lot of pre counseling tests should be. Okay. Session should be done. That one I think will really encourage people.
Thank you so much. Paul, I hope you're feeling better now, and we really pray for you here from the Tsakwa.
Sahizi naendelea nikipata nafuu.
Kaa ngumu kabisa.
Sahizi niko very strong.
Asante sana, Catherine.
Okay, you have a good day.
Thank you, you too. Hello, Jambo. Hello. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, how are you?
Not too bad. How are you?
Fine, well. Who am I speaking to?
Hello, vipi nakuaje?
Nashukuru sana. Nazungumza na nani? Naona simu ni ya ng'ambo tu.
Halo, nazungumza na Munga.
Munga, jambo.
Vipi mambo?
Salama sana, habari ya convent?
Si mbaya, nashukuru.
Okay.
Vipi habari ya masiku?
Sio mbaya bro. Hebu tuambie, ulikuwa unaniambia kwamba ulikuwa na shida kidogo pia ya kichwa.
Mimi nashukuru kwa show every day. Mimi ni a big fan of the show.
Thank you so much, my brother.
Yes, and today truth has come home to bear, because sometimes we live in denial, don't we?
We do, most of the times.
To suit our egos and all that. But as the gentleman said, myself, I had a bad accident, which I drifted into coma for a while.
Wow.
Call it months on end, and that result, I ended up with a bad brain injury, which I had memory loss. I couldn't remember even my wife, my twin brother. I couldn't remember anybody.
Wow.
So and it took a long toll, because before I recovered, my house was sold. By the time I left there, I was taken to brain injury rehabilitation unit.
Wow.
My missus had gone, so you are like, okay, my mother is come here. He's together with my brother, and he started kind of against my missus. It is not a good experience, to be honest. And for that gentleman to come and speak the way he spoke, it took me years back. I'm still living with the remnants of the brain injury and the accident, but it's not easy. For me, I would say kudos to the gentleman. I admire him so much. Sometimes you just want to sweep things under the carpet, or just kick the can down the road and say life goes on. But sometimes it's good to have such a gentleman come on show and just say, it is what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because all we do, people who've been through what I've been, we just live in denial.
Yeah.
Live in denial, hoping. Because you hoping things will get better, but if you don't get the right treatment, the right therapy, you're just xeroxing and doing zero work in your life. Because I'm okay now. I do travel, but I try to forget. But sometimes, like when I hear the gentleman speak, I'm like, okay, this motivates me, this encourages me.
Wow.
Yeah. Apart from that, I'm a big fan of this show. Especially, I'm a big fan of Mr. Wanderi, my senior there, and Eric. I like Mondays. I like Fridays. I will never miss me there. Today is a bank holiday. It's a bank holiday today. It's our May holiday. So, but I had to wake up to listen to these two gentlemen, including you.
That's incredible, bro. I really appreciate it. So let me ask you, now, clearly then, after your accident, you're not only recovering from a disease, you're also recovering from a wreckage of an economy, you know, your economy, that is your financial economy. How have you recovered from this over time?
Well, to be honest, and I really appreciate, to be honest, people will say, oh, I hate this government, I hate that. At least the system here works. I mean, they put things in, they've got provisions in place to help you out, because they got me a car. Because after I came out, the house was sold. My missus kept me away from it. They got me a council house. They made me, I'm catered for. I had lady dinners coming, dinners to me and all that. And then with time, I got back, my family got back around to me. And it wasn't easy, but it is what it is. And I give thanks. And to be honest, I became so empathetic by where I see people, and I became so I've seen life in another day. I saw life in another dimension, and what my senior colleague Wanderi normally talks to. I normally like to take, because it comes with so much wisdom. Not forgetting Eric. Me, to be honest, I would prefer having this show today than having the other show, because it enlightens me and it gives me wisdom. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because without wisdom, you're nobody. You know what I mean? Because I used to have temper issues. I used to have all this because of brain injury. But when I listen to this gentleman, like today, you're discussing about men. I like to listen to it, because nobody's ever 100% right.
Yeah.
And to be honest, these two gentlemen have corrected me so much. To be honest, I say next time I'm in Nairobi, I look for them. Just to have a cup of tea and just say, oh, this is the man who changes my life every morning.
He's
That's
welcome.
incredible.
Yeah, Yeah, that's past my regards. My dad lives in Dindigwa down there, so I know I'll see Eric on my way.
That should be
Oh,
Eric's
yeah,
neighbor.
oh, yeah.
That should be Eric's neighbor.
You should let me know, pick you from the airport when you're coming.
Yeah. But with time, everything is good, and I appreciate.
All right.
Thank you, my brother.
And thank God for your life, man.
Even for the gentleman who is on the show today, I think we are doing good.
Thank you.
I'm
Thank you,
biggest fan. Everybody knows in Coventry, UK, London, where I used to live. I'm a big fan of this show. I normally tell them, listen to this show if you want to know what is happening in Kenya. Forget about the media, because all this media are politically correct. Listen to this show. People tell you as it is.
Thank you so much, my brother.
And for my friend, Ekuru Okot, I don't know which uni he went to. I don't know if he went to Warwick or Coventry, but I think he's a former Coventry. Just passed my regards. I'm a big fan of him, especially with the mzigo ya kwanza. I mean, at least somebody's bold enough to come up with a script instead of just waiting to go to a funeral, a wedding, and just blab. Our politicians are so fond of loving microphones. I don't know why, but he put it on text. This is how it's supposed to be. But because it's not politically correct, nobody listens to it. But anyway, enjoying the show.
Thank you so much, my brother. Keep there. And thank you so much for also
I'm
sharing
glad
your
to
story.
be part of it.
I really appreciate, bro. I really appreciate.
Okay, thank you very much, Bitok. I'll see you when I come to. I'm hoping, hopefully now Kenya is on a red flag according to United Kingdom COVID regulations. But as soon as it opens, I'm planning to come back there.
That's good, bro.
Because my parents are still there. I still have a brother. I still have a sister down there. I still have cousins. I still have a friend like yourself. So I'm looking forward to come back.
I appreciate, bro. Thank you. Please drop me a message, a WhatsApp message. Then we can continue the conversation. Then we see how best we can work together.
Okay, thank you very much. God bless.
Thank you so much. All right. Wow, that's powerful. You mean sharing the story? It's quite something. Anyway, let me read the comments. When you come back, we go into the way of men, as our brothers, we all talk about our mistakes. Our brother tells us about what got him out of the land of honey and milk. Maybe that's why he gained weight from the honey and milk. Anyway, Evan Sarab, good morning, GB from Nakuru. Thank you. Korean Bismarck, Jamge Bitok watching from West T. Asante Kagifate, good morning. Good morning to Gaki. Eza Gabor, good morning. Gerald Bitok Nikondani kabisa from Eldoret. Salimia Levi Kones na Wanderi. Sharon Shani, good morning. Good morning to Sharon Shani. Jimmy Gakio, happy Journalism Day. Good, thank you so much for that. Pish Mugash tuned in from Tika Road, the service at gmail.com. Okay. Keep Korean Wesley, keep some Mondet following from Captain Bonakuru, GK Mondet. Good morning, GB. Good morning to you, GK. Good to see you. Manuel alive from Nairobi, Kenya. Good morning. Good morning to you, Rebecca Karoki. Watching from Naivasha, ongeza volume kiasi, please. I think ilikuwa kitabu shaongezwa. Dixon Samba, good morning, Gerald, watching here in Nyayo Iris. Thank you. Naona pia Franco Petro. Good morning, Gerald, watching from Cape Town, South Africa. Thank you all the guys from South Africa. I really appreciate you. Victor Samuel watching from Jubilee Headquarters. Victor Samuel, good morning. Good morning to you. Cliffland Otieno. Good morning, watching from Growers Cafe. Salimia sana watu wa Growers Cafe. I really appreciate. Kefa Graphics. Thank you. Good to see you, my brother. Sama, good morning to Kefa. Jimmy Gakio, Levy's story is informative and scary at the same time. I'm due for an endoscopy check up this week. I'll push it to next month. Second thought. Usiogope bana. Yeah, pale. Yusefa Light says that Collins Salemika Sana, Losha Muloti Jr. following morning, Gerald Bitok watching from Nairobi CBD. Good to see Sir Gerald Bitok. Asante sana, good to see you. Thank you. Chiriot K. Elvis. Levy, I went through the same barely a year ago, but I'm now okay. The experience was really scary. I need to get in touch with you, sir. Okay. Utatuma nambari yako alafu ndampa Levi atakuzungumzia. Munga Luto continue says this is interesting. I've been through command, a bad brain injury myself. This is courageous of this gentleman. That's the same guy who just called from the UK. Ask me about very powerful conversation. Thank you, Levi Kones, for sharing. Joel Arama says Perfect Storm is a tragic but great movie. Thank you so much, Joel Arama, chairman Diaspora Edition. Susan C. Maina anasema hi Levi, Shasi Chaps ya mwana bitoki chamege Mwaiben. Asante sana, salimia watu wa Mwaiben. Nashukuru sana. Pauline Cherop yuko tuned in. Selector Mstakili, Perfect Storm, Kiptai, Kipto, Kiptek, the men's way of doing things than just the gamblers. So good morning, sir. The tackle this morning is very inspiring. Thank you so much, my brother. Good to see you. Salimia watu wa Elgeyo Marakwet. Jimmy Gakio, H. pylori is another factor to colon cancer, even treated. Wow, interesting. I've really struggled with H. pylori for some time. Pauline Cherosama, we hardly reflect on our way of life. Otherwise, we would be better being sensitive to others. Okay. Muso JB, morning Bitok, just tuned in from Donham. Good to see you. Doro Helios sema Paroli ni mbaya sana. We Doro. We sema Roji B, good to see you. Doro, good to see you. Karibu. Benwin Kimtai Arap Mangama sema no human is immortal. Kweli. Thanks for great lessons Captain Wanderi, Levi Kones, Eric and Gerald. Asante sana. Daisy Martin, good morning utawala tuko ndani. Asante sana mheshimiwa. Andrew Kolum, I love the show Kiprop from Birmingham, Alabama. Thank you so much Kiprop. Really appreciate. All right. We roll the conversation. We go straight to the way of men. And wants to start with you, Eric. Sure, you read the book.
Sure.
Any reflections?
Very serious reflections. I think it's a very well done book, and one of the things that I think I would want to commend the writer for is creating a positive appeal for the word gang. You know, we always associate the word gang with
negative things. In fact, I was scared. The first thing I saw, the way of men is way of the gang. I was like, damn.
I was like,
this guy is almost wanting to turn us into a militia or something.
Yes. But the way he just explains the word gang and the fact that, the way of men is the way of the gang.
Yes.
That, the gang has values. It has ideals. Yes. It has trophies for the members of the gang. These trophies may be invisible, they may be virtual, they may be unspoken, but there's always aspirations in a gang on what someone is supposed to be a member of that particular gang. And manhood is actually a gang. It's a gang. It has ideals, it has trophies, some of them unspoken, some of them correct, some of them wrong, some of them static, some of them dynamic. And the chase of being a man within a gang is something that I think Captain can help us expound better even as we delve into the book. Yeah.
Okay, Captain.
Yes,
before you come to you, I know you love it. Let me go there first. Like you, wewe uko na mingi zaidi, you are deeper into the book, so that when you come in, you crown the cake.
Yeah.
Okay, Levi, you read the book.
Yeah, it's a man's book, if I could put it that way. And I think feminists would be really offended by it. And I read it, I when I got to the last chapter about how to form a gang, I laughed because I realized, this guy took us there and said, how to form a gang. But it's one of the things that really stood out was this definition of whether you're a good man or whether you are
a bad man.
No,
you're good at being
You're good at being a man.
Yeah. Are you good at being a man, or are you a good man?
Yeah.
And it seems like manhood has been defined over the years by the cultures that surround us.
Yeah.
A good man in 1800s was one who went out and
killed gazelles.
Yes, and brought went cattle rustling. If you look at the issues between Turkanas and Pokots, if a Turkana guy goes and steals cows from the Pokots, he is a good man. In his own area, he's doing what men are supposed to do. But outside here, we have redefined it as a terrible thing if you did that today. And then, of course, he mirrors the idea of how men are into action movies. And if you ask them what they like, they will tell you about the Rambos and the what. And these guys are doing grotesque things in those movies.
Yeah.
But then you ask them if that's being a good man, and they will say no. But I think it's a thought-provoking book. One, because it allows us to ask ourselves whether some of the things that are manly or are considered manly nowadays are actually soft things, whether we have softened over time. In fact, he draws the parallels between the chimpanzees and the bonobos, and how the chimpanzees are structured and how they go out and they attack and they defend their perimeter and they have full of strength, and how these bonobos are just weak chaps, and talks about the bonobo masturbation, which he asks whether a lot of us men are just using women's bodies to masturbate, which it's a very interesting an analogy. I never really thought of it that way. So I think every man should read this book in terms of asking himself where he is at, because finally, let me just say, two types of men stood out eventually. That there was that simulated masculinity where there is you have the primal aggression where you show your strength through brute strength, brute force and everything, and then there's vicarious masculinity where you show it through participation in sports, or you enjoy watching football, reading literature, and then there's the intellectualized masculinity where you win arguments like Devin D through economic stories and stuff like that. And then he mirrors all of them, and it seems you have to take a little bit
of each.
of each.
of each to actually become
Yes.
a man's man.
Yeah.
It's a good book for men.
Okay. Just before we get to you, can you give me the number for M-Pesa? It is, guys. 077
0769 199
199
911.
911. All right, so you can get the book The Way of Men for only 100 shillings. Send a peso to 0769 199 911 and you'll get your book on WhatsApp. Unaweza tuma pale uweze kusoma kitabu ya The Way of Men. Natuma shilingi 100 tu pale, lakini kama ungeguzwa kidogo unaweza ongeza mbegu ya mtumishi. There's something you want to say, Eric, before I saw you.
I think I wanted to talk about that aspect of masculinity that he's talking about sports.
Yes.
And the book also points out that, you see, when it comes to sports, there is the man in the field playing the game, okay? And there is the man on the gallery watching the game. And then, of course, the gallery can be extended to the platforms like television and the like.
Yeah.
And the book also points out to the fact that a lot of men have kind of delegated the expression of their masculinity to other men. Yeah. So for them, they form a fan base.
Yes.
So they watch the sports and they are crazy about the sports, but they will never play the sport. Yeah. They watch the debates in terms of politics and they support Trump, they support Biden. And it kind of gives them a feeling, a high, like, you know, this guy is doing it on our behalf. He's a man. And they have become passive in developing their own masculinities. To an extent, they feel like if Biden wins, then we've won. And that's okay. But the book is kind of challenging the man and telling him, you've got to go to the field yourself and play the sport. You've got to do the debates yourself. You've got to be active. You have to be seen doing something. And the book at the end, you know, raises and says that it is absolutely important for every man to have meaningful work to do. A man should be known for something that he does. That, you know, if we see Bitok, we know what Bitok does. If we see our brother, we know what he does. If we see Captain, we know what he does. Even if he just grows vegetables. But a man to be known, needs to be known to be doing meaningful work. And this Bitok is not just talking about the individual men in society. I think it also talks about the leadership of the civilized societies. How do we ensure that we create enough opportunities for men to be able to do meaningful work? You know, things like sports. Yeah. How do we enlarge the spaces so that our men have opportunities to express their masculinity? Because as the book says, as long as you have a peaceful world, one that doesn't have war, and, you know, civilization largely promotes peace. We are never going back to the primal ages, you know, of hunters, gatherers, and castle wrestling and fighting and all this. We are much more encouraged to come to a much more civilized world. And the book rightly puts it that in the presence of peace and plenty, men lack opportunities that give them a very good platforms to express their masculinity, and that can have them now go into the things that we begin to see, you know, alcohol, drugs, depression, you know, criminal gangs, as they try to create opportunities for them to express their own masculinity. And I think it is up to society, governments, academic leaders to be able to create opportunities for sports, opportunity for debate, opportunity that allow the promotion of positive masculinity in society.
Okay. Captain.
Excellent. You know, sometimes it's also good to learn from the way other people interpreted it. When I started promoting this book, I was telling Eric before you came that here in my notebook, I read many books. So I keep writing notes, and there are books that really strike me. But this one provoked me because there is a crisis of masculinity. And that question then, there is always a question. You will be told, don't cry when you mwanaume. Okay? Why are you behaving like a woman? You know, there are even people who will tell you that. Behave like a man.
A man.
Be a man.
But what then is to be a man?
To be a man,
What then is to be a man? And we've seen many times where there is a challenge. And Eric has aptly put it in context that the world has changed. Okay? And women are themselves telling us to change. And I raised the debate here the other day. that the same woman who wants us to dress nicely, put even makeup, some of them will even tell you to put makeup, they'll vanish. You become a metroman, an ornamental man. Now, the same woman you will expect you in the house to tell you that behave, you are the man in this house. Protect this house. Okay?
Kwa Simba.
Yeah, kuwa Simba. You becomes war. You become the warrior. Okay? And I just told Eric a few moments ago that the pampered life, the aristocrats and guys with inherited power have never been good to warriors. And when you talk about warrior, he has put it aptly, the gang. The gang is not about crime. You have to, man is a social being. And being the man, you have to have your club, what we call the boys.
Yeah.
Get your 5 men. And these 5 men, you must have purposeful relationships. In other words, each one of you, for example, Eric is the entrepreneur in this meeting. Okay? Levi is a guy who has gone through it. He has motivation and he has learned it, and he can tell you things which lift your spirit. Bitok is giving a platform, is creating a platform. And untrained, you said you're not trained as a journalist, but you're giving us a platform to talk to people, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we all have some use, okay?
Yeah.
And this is what the gang is all about. The gang is not a criminal gang. And when you talk about opportunities, when you say people now turn into crime, it's not per se looking for opportunities. No. It's actually it's what he said, the primo expression of masculinity through subjugating others. Because crime essentially just means you're going to hurt others. But the challenge today is that this masculinity must also have the sense of humanness. The humanness. You know, what is a goodness? And I like Levi's examples. What are you going to be remembered for? So you just came by. Other books and other writers have said, we don't have a lot of time in this world. We don't have a lot of time. We have little time. And in this little time, you must be counted for your contribution. And when I talk about contribution, the challenge also to the men, because everybody, there is that attitude, and the women also have a very wrong notion of what a man is. A woman will get pregnant, then say, oh, all men are like that. You all disregard. And you know, we've spoken about it here, Bitok. Respect for the men who take children, not their own, like Levi here. You know, bring them up and raise them up. In other words, you're doing what another fellow simply went and did. He simply masturbated, you know, relieved himself with a woman. And out of that, we call them biological accident. To him, it's a biological accident. And then he now denigrates masculinity, the positive masculinity. Because he is being a man, but he is not good at being a man. Because a man looks after his affairs. A man contributes to that, and that's chapter 1 of the book. A man contributes to the gang. To the gang. There must be something useful you bring to the gang. You cannot just come, you know, this ornamental masculinity, you know, where we go to the pub, you know, and everybody wakes up with a hangover tomorrow. That's not the way of men. The way of men, there is even honor. That
they live by a code of ethics.
There's a code of ethics. I want to find out how Levi is doing.
That was just actually incredible. The code of ethics.
The code of ethics.
There's a constitution for the gang.
Yes. We do not touch other men's wives when we are in a gang. Because when I see, we've talked about it a bit, when I see your child should be able to say, Uncle Captain is a man to go to when I have an issue. When I have
an issue.
And I have,
without thinking twice.
And I have told you before, I have example of men who've delegated some tasks to me as a man because we belong to a gang. And that gang, we meet, and one of them challenged me the other day and told me, squeezy umeniweka nje sana ya mambo yako, because there are a few things that have happened, because he was told by the other. And these two men, they are men who've given me access. I can talk to their children. And I told you that even one of the daughters of one got COVID. Before her parents I knew, because she asked me, how do I break this to my... And the fact that the father is trusting me is that she is a young woman, but I see her as my daughter. And I know my daughter is seen as their daughter. That is a code of ethics. That's the honor. You know, when you say being a man's man, when I see Levi doing something and it doesn't really bring in, you know, good honor to the men's club and to the gang, I will call him and say, hey, brother, not that way. We don't do it that way. We don't do it that way.
We don't do it in the gang.
We correct each other as men. We guide each other. We farm each other up. And we know, you know, we did see a man who farmed up his good friend, isn't it? We don't get into that. But that is. So, Mr. Churchill, Dabuki, you are a man's man. You're a man's man. And that's what it means, the code of ethics, the code of honor of men.
I like that.
Yes. And this is what we are challenging the men, even those who are listening to us and watching us. Please get your friends, get a group of 5 to 10 men. Call them the O group. In the armed forces, we would call the O groups, the orders group. This is a group you tell when tough things are going to happen. Everybody else is bound by the cord, but is out of the O group. The O group decides for everybody else. And these are men who can stand for each other, stand for society, risk for each other, farm each other up, and tell each other, brother, you know. And Eric knows that sometimes in our culture we say there is no man who shouldn't have a man who can put an earpiece into your ears and get your works out. You need, every man needs that. Somebody who can tell you, brother, you are wrong. You are wrong. And this is what, and then we must, the book also tells us in chapter 1 that women have tried to convert us to be the men they want us to be. Yes. You get?
And I think that is a tragedy now.
Yeah, and it's a tragedy because there is certain notions that women have for men. And I want to say this for
Africa. They think they can be better men than us, man.
Yes, and this for Africa is born out.
You and Captain are ganging up against women.
You know, in
like,
Africa,
it's against an ideology that is destroying the game.
The tragedy is the soap operas. Is the soap operas. And the ornamental masculinity.
In Alejandro.
You know, the Alejandros. And you see, so
Alejandros.
you have a situation where a young girl growing up thinks that is what being a man should be. Let me tell you the experience I had this weekend. On Saturday, it didn't occur to my mind because it's a Saturday that, it's a holiday. So I went visiting an old friend. And my main interest that time was to deliver an item that belongs to her. And when I got into the house, even before I was served a cup of tea, I was told this door has been really troubling us. So I started making the lock for the door. Then the sister called and I told the sister, you know, I haven't even been offered a cup of tea. I have been made a carpenter, so I want to make this lock nice. And I really didn't make it nice. Because, so now put it in perspective. The same woman may want to tell me that, you know, Captain, you need to, you know, men dress like this, men act like this. So, you know, I get to the house and you are telling me to do things that a man should do. But
in short, nobody else could do it.
Until I had a struggle with that, I'll tell you that.
And she didn't do it because I asked her, you've put in screws here, you've even made it loose. So I had to devise ways on putting some piece of wood to make sure it is firm because she couldn't do it. But the same woman will have another notion that, for example, that's not being a man. And this is where now the men are caught in between. Please, men, do not kowtow to the notions of masculinity that women have designed because of the influence by foreign cultures, particularly the soap operas and what we are calling the ornamental man, you know, the show-offs and the showbiz. That's not what a man is. Because majority of our people live in the rural areas. A man there is expected to wake up and till the land. Okay? Produce. Okay? And the man who produces more becomes the lord over the others. Because the others can work on his farm to get something to eat. And that is when you start having a structured society. So if you do not have something to do as a man, please collect garbage if you must. Collect even the,
Let's do something.
Yeah, do something.
I was just going to say, in terms of one of the things that, and I'm glad you brought that example, because when you read these books, you also mirror and think about your own life. And I was seeing situations like this guy puts it quite well, that when people are being said to be men, it's almost like, especially from the women, they are okay with you being a man up to a certain point. Then they want to tone it down. They are okay in certain areas. Like if there's trouble and a gangster comes to the house, go be a man. But if you turn around and say, "Wait, hii nyumba ikae vizuri," now umeenda sana. So and I realized even after I got married, some things my wife, I would tell her, we have spent a whole weekend together. Anajua sina pesa. Hana pesa. Gasi kisha. Nani anaambiwa gasi imesha? I'm expected to come up with something as a man.
To be a man.
To be a
man and get gas.
Yes. And the moment she said that, she'll turn over and sleep. Shida zake amesha offload. Sasa wewe unabaki kishangaa what will I do? In fact, one of the arguments we had was one of those things you've just mentioned. There was one time when we were married early. I wake up in the morning and I hear some banging in my house. And my wife has called a certain fundi. He's in the house. He's fixing I don't know what. And I was upset. I'm like, what's this guy doing here? I called him. I was like, it's my business to call a fundi. How can you be calling a fundi? Come on, I just fell away. But then like you talk about a boys club and that kind of thing, the gang, there are some friends I have, like the gentleman we're really good buddies. One of the things we have learned in our 40s is sometimes to do things as a man alafu kulenga. Kuna vitu zingine you don't allow questions. Zikikuja tu hivi unalenga tu. Just once you have assigned yourself this role that as a man I'm going to do XYZ and you have cut that path, just lenga the noise. Don't allow
the distraction.
Don't allow questions. And I'm not saying this because I'm a chauvinist. I know women may really throw stones here, but I'm saying this because there are certain decisions men make and leaders made and said this is the way and this is the way. I mean, look at Paul Kagame. Love him or hate him, but the dude has bulldozed some things because of that man's madness. If he was a bit softer, Rwanda would not be clean.
It would not be moving in the right direction.
It's the cleanest country in Africa.
I'm telling you.
Very great environment. No littering.
You can say he's a dictator, nini, kuna vitu zingine zinatakana to this is the way, that's it. And I think this book also shows you some of those things, because we have lost that with all these, I don't know, Beijing conferences and what have you. Along the way, we have lost it. And yet women still, even in their instinctive nature, are still attracted to men who bulldoze things in a way, who take initiative, who get out there and lay out
and make things happen.
Those, those men are still considered. In fact, paka unaambiwa mbona usikue kama nani.
Sikue kama Eriko.
I'm not sure I'm the example.
You're just saying.
But let me say something, Eric, before you say. You know, one time I had a conversation, and I had not read this book, and a conversation with a man who's really successful in his profession. And he's been CEO of a professional firm, and he's really succeeded. Then one day he told me that among my classmates, I will not mention his name, he told me among my classmates is Dr. James MWANGI, CEO and of Equity Bank. Then he told me Gitahi of the Nation. Then he told me another man called Erika Holly. They are professionals. Then he gave me a few names. He said, Erika Holly is a partner in this firm. Then he told me, there's another gentleman. I mean, Ireri was in HF. So he told me our class. And then he said, Dr. Kimgetich. He's a good example of men who've cut their path. Kimgetich survives in every regime. You know that. And because he's made his career path, he doesn't need, he's one guy I have seen, he doesn't need political connections to do the things he does. It's just in him, because that's what a man is. So this man told me that they had a meeting of what called the boys gang. Then one man said, introduced his wife and said, this is so and so, you know him, this is so and so. So this lady asked the man, and it became a debate that these guys you've introduced me, you've told me they were in your class. Who taught you guys? He said, we were taught by a professor called Professor Chege. Chege one time was the chairman of Capital Markets Authority, and he resigned out of principle. Resigned out of principle. Because that is what he was teaching his students, that you must cut your path. You must cut your path. That's what manhood is, masculinity is all about.
Yeah.
So this lady asked the husband, you've introduced me to all those men. Did you get a different degree from them? Why are you introducing me to them? Why
they know?
What's wrong with you?
Yeah. What is your degree for?
Why
Captain
not
is not kind.
Anna chills. That's how he has retired.
Thank God you are not my classmate.
Okay,
You have retired your chills.
yes. You see? And we've talked here before. Bitoki, you are the one who tells us that we need to retire egos.
Our egos. Yeah.
And hang them up somewhere. So this lady asked a very vital question. And you can see what was the reaction of the man. And you know, he had risen and become a director in some company. You know, he got into depression.
Wow.
Actually. Because remember what the wife is telling him, that how can your classmates be so successful and you're not?
You're not.
After reading this book, I reflected and saw perhaps what our Fred did not get is those people had chosen a path and they had pursued a path.
Yeah.
What is this you have chosen to do?
Yeah.
Please pick something you are good at.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Pick something you are good at. And I remember and I keep reminding graduates, especially men, that when we were lucky, those of us who graduated when Mzee Moi would come to the Chancellor's court and say,
boom.
that please,
And now
I give you now the power
to
read and
do
write
all that appertains.
and to do all that appertains to the degree. I keep asking people, so if the degree said you need to read, so are you reading? Number 2, write, are you writing? Then are you doing anything that appertains to the degree? Eric here educates us a lot on issues of psychology. He's a psychologist. And I have this feeling that some of the innovations that Eric is doing for marketing purposes and the way he structures his
Psychological.
you know, he understands the psychology of a human mind.
Yes.
You know, so that he knows there is something psychologists calls the dissonance. There is the product, the cognitive dissonance in us. You know, Eric, I told you, anytime somebody mentions a book, mimi napenda kutafuta elimu. And I have learned that once you make yourself that useful and pursue one path, you didn't have to fall into depression like that man. Because you're running your own race as a man.
Yeah.
Okay? There are those who are pursuing politics, well and good. There are those who are pursuing sports, well and good. There are those who are pursuing other things. All of you, and when you create a gang, as he's saying, that gang will have everybody contributing something. And Levi, before I forget, it is true. There are certain things you don't delegate as a man in your house. And I want to challenge even the men today. I don't delegate. I have never delegated picking or taking my child to school. No. Then what is the essence of being a man? So that even if the mother were available to take the child to school, sometimes I make it a point of going. And then we have to negotiate. Okay, let's have lunch. Alafu mwende. Mimi niende shughuli zingine. You get? Because I have come to see that children see, they do. And I want to say this, who taught me that? It's because all my years when I was in school, and I have said it on this show, my mother never gave me money for fees. Even if she's the one who looked for the money. The money was always given to me by my father. My mother has never bothered to talk about repairs in the house. That she would say, hiyo ni kazi ya baba yenu. And one time I remember asking her, why is the cow shed like this? You see, that's your father's business. And then I told her, suppose he hasn't seen. He says, how can he not see? It is the duty of a man, because that's the second chapter of the book, to survey his perimeter.
Yeah.
To survey his
Perimeter.
True. To survey his surroundings. To see what is about your house. What is hanging, what's not going right. That's not the duty of the...
It's very true. In my house, we have a joke about it.
Yes.
They know I am national government.
Yes.
Na mwingine ni county.
So,
County
And
issues.
there's a clear separation of powers.
Kama, what we are eating. Sijui.
Any accounting government.
Those are county issues. But then they are national government issues.
But have you developed resources? Or you are still
I am developing resources very well. but mingi inabaki wapi?
inabaki in the national government. Yeah, to address bigger issues. Okay.
good analogy.
Yeah.
You know, and basically, this is this is the essence of it. But I want them to contribute. I see something about the man being the perimeter. you
Yeah.
know. Because the sightings, when you say people go to do, soldiers go to do reconnaissance, how do you see the other side of the enemy?
Yeah.
How are you able to see that the other side is more powerful than I? How do you respond to the kind of threat that is facing you?
True.
It's because you need to do reconnaissance. And that also tells the man that you have the eyes, you are the eyes and the ears of the family.
True.
You're the guy who sees. So when you see, but to see, and this is where now I want to talk to the women, the way the support they need to give us as men. That look, when for me to see, my mind will tell me I want to look at that corner. But the head cannot look. The head carries the eyes
Yeah.
and the nose and the ears and the mouth. You get? But for me to turn and see, I have to convince the neck that allow me to turn that way.
Yes.
And Levi, and gentlemen, if you get stiff neck, will you turn nicely?
No.
So, ladies, that's where you come in. Please, when we tell you that we want the vision to be this way, this is what we can see, and this is where we want to go. Support us. You are the neck. And if you become stiff, then we can't see.
There's a problem.
There's a problem. Our vision is blood.
King of Zamunda
Yes.
on YouTube is saying the gang theory is a good thing. However, talking on behalf of men who are loners, how do you get to form this gang?
And
Can you form a gang of loners?
I think for the loner, for the guy who is a loner, he needs to understand that there is no easier target
Yes.
than the gazelle that is hanging alone somewhere. Okay, and developing the skills to socialize with other men
It's an art.
is an art, and it is something that can be developed. For me as a psychologist, that is a skill that someone actually needs to be taught. How do you go and introduce yourself to other men? Let other men know what you do. But for you, because the book actually says, Bitok, that no matter how good your woman is, and there are men who have no complaints whatsoever about their spouses. I mean, if you listen to the story of our brother here, you can see a woman behind him who has supported him through thick and thin. But the book actually says that no matter how good your woman is, you cannot be a man adequately in the absence of other men.
Yes.
That masculinity is first and foremost asserted, not to other women,
But to fellow men.
to fellow men.
That's what I liked actually.
Yes.
Like, for and I think this is what we need to change.
Yeah.
Because when you look at the modern man, it's a competition against the other gender.
Yes.
But when you realize that being a man, like the of a man is in the competition with fellow men.
Yeah.
Yes.
Climbing the hierarchies against fellow men.
Yes.
Like, pushing yourselves up. Because you realize now when you talk about ornamentalism is men these days dress for women. Like, I do this for women. I do so that women can compliment me and say, this is a good man, but this other guy is not because he's uptight and this and that. Or I, all these things. I spend my time in the kitchen so that I can say I'm a modern man and doing things. I'm going to be loved.
Those are the bonobo men.
Yes, you get it. So it's a competition against looking nice to the men.
Yeah.
But within you, there's no structure, there's no farming up of the man that you are. So, like you're saying, I mean, where if usually if you've not left your village, you'll always think your village is the only place that's existing.
Yeah.
So as a man also, when you're restricted to your own perspective as a loner, then there's a world that you've not discovered of fellow men. You think you've achieved much until you meet Eric, who was a showroom.
Exactly.
That's when you realize, man.
Yes.
Hey,
And
you think you met
talking-
much until you met Captain Wanderi, who was a colorful career. You think you've done much until you met Levi, who was conquered a lot of pains in life and restructured his life and won a lot of things. And this has come in handy. There's a time me and this guy were doing some round somewhere.
I remember
So you
you
think,
saying
as I
that.
told you, so you think you've achieved much, but until you see what other men are doing, and you coil your tail and you're like, hey, man, I shouldn't even be talking. So I think the game of the gang is the game of progress.
Yes.
Farming up and realizing that this guy is here, you want to push better. If I go and I see what Eric is doing, I'll be challenged to do better. And then Eric atafika hey, you know, then I don't know. But still, when your thoughts are still on the loner thing.
The loner therefore
I
needs
wanted to add something.
Okay,
You know, the
actually.
lone buffalo. The lone
buffalo.
When you and we need to help this man. That one of the things we've seen, and women, please also listen to me. Do not control the man and not let him get out and go with a gang, because if you go to the field, you're always told to avoid the lone buffalo.
Yes.
Because the lone buffalo is starved of many things. Let's not get into some things.
It's early in the morning.
It's early in the morning. But one of the things that then he said about the lone buffalo is that the lone buffalo is full of rage.
Yes.
And destructive rage. This is what we are telling this gentleman, that please get out and socialize. You're not the best. I have admitted here that I'm a lawyer, I'm many things. But I sit down and listen to people who are in business and who never had any college education.
True.
And they pay me.
Yeah. Yes.
And I do things for them. And I get challenged. And when I sit with them, I learn from them. And that is what I wanted to say, that please, being a lone rager, actually now is dangerous, because you can be full of rage against society for no good reason.
And you know, one of the characteristics of any person who is going through a depression is actually that they collect themselves to a corner. They disconnect themselves from society.
And they chill there.
And so one of the ways of, you see, being with people will force you to have conversations that you don't want to have. I mean, this morning we've had a conversation about death. Yeah. I didn't wake up in the morning and put it on my diary that I would want to discuss death. But the fact that you brought our brother here has reminded us that, by the way, do you know that you can walk into a hospital for a normal test, and as you come out, you have a huge diagnosis in front of your eyes. These are the conversations that now shape how you're going to live the rest of your day and how you're going to plan the rest of your life. We want to encourage the men. Let's hang out. Okay, let us hang out. I know there is the fear that women have that, men can only hang out around alcohol, for example.
And other women.
Yeah, but where is the alcohol on this table?
But I was going to say something
Are you
about
guys hiding it? Are you guys hiding it? There's no alcohol here.
It's under the
Men
table.
can hang out and have very constructive conversations.
I was just going to say something about the loner man, King of Zamunda, is he?
Yes, King of
Yeah,
Zamunda
I was
on YouTube,
going to tell him, since he's listening, and maybe other men who are loners, the first point of trying to solve a problem is the realization that there is a problem, which he has. He said, what happens to us loner men? So my question to such people is, so what are you going to do about it? Because there's two things that make people change. The first one is necessity, and the second one is aspiration. Now, necessity is a place where you are put, where you must do something. You are hungry, you must find food. You are now sick, you must get medicine. You are now in a place where you have no money, you must get money. Necessity will make you make a move. Aspiration will also make you make a move, and aspiration is about hope and vision, a vision of something greater than you. In fact, Steve Jobs said that he was inspired to get out and do something because of what he could see in his vision. He could see the product way before he even began. So I want to ask this gentleman, we have talked here about what could happen when men are inspiring about men. Can you be inspired enough to see the vision of yourself as a better man? And then to make the changes to go ahead and do it, so that you don't end up in the place of need, because the place of need could be a place of rock bottom. By the time you're saying you need something, umeenda sana. And you could even be now coming from, starting from now, not the bottom, now from the basement, coming to the ground. You cannot compare a guy who is starting from basement 4 to ground and a guy who is starting from ground going up.
True.
By the time you get to ground, you alishenda second floor.
True.
So the thing is not to start from basement. If you're at ground and you realize I need something, let's make changes right there. Be a man who can get out now, begin to talk to people. And the interesting thing about men is that we're not like women. We are so approachable. It's so easy to find a a group of guys who you actually admire, who can begin to give advice to you, maybe let you into the outer circle as they continue to know you, and then bring you in pole pole. Yeah. Women may take a little bit of time, but guys, I mean, here we are. We've known each other for now 1 hour and things, but yeah, I'm pretty sure we can go and have tea very nice.
True.
Exactly. And hang out the whole
And
day.
without judging each other.
And without judgment, yes.
And something that comes out also, in the second chapter of the book, and Bitok, you had talked about it. Men are not in competition with women. If you want to really be appraised as a man, then compete for your status and position
as a man
within the gang.
Within the gang, yeah.
Within the gang.
Because I like there's something even him, but there's something just before it loses my head, as you're still there in Kalan, you say as you're still the one who is talking, as the mouth is still yours. And they say that the man who ends up being respected in the gang is the one who makes progress in the gang, even by the women. Like the women have an ideal man. Like the man should do laundry, should do utensils, like, okay, this is what we want. But what she wants is that man with a ragged jeans, with with dragged shirts and dragged muscles. You cannot achieve that by doing utensils and mopping the house. So it says that within the gang, at the end of the day, the respect follows the hierarchy of how it changes, like a musical graphic. Whatever is up there means the tone is up. So I mean, I just wanted to pick up because I found it a bit.
And you see, for the challenge for our brother who has a problem, the gang. People have this problem that is a boys' club where people just meet. I know we like sports. Okay, as men.
Yeah.
I usually have a problem when we extend after the